The message came on a Tuesday. Dr. Alan White was finishing his coffee when the computer systems at the SETI station began to beep. At first, he thought it was a system error. SETI had been searching for alien signals for decades with little success. But this was different. The pattern was too regular, too specific to be natural. "Lisa, come look at this," Alan called to his assistant, Dr. Lisa Johnson. Lisa hurried over, her eyes widening as she saw the screen. "Is that what I think it is?" Alan nodded slowly. "I think we just made first contact." Within hours, the small SETI station in New Mexico was swarming with government officials. The message was being decoded bit by bit, revealing itself to be a complex mathematical sequence that soon gave way to simple language patterns. By evening, they had translated enough to understand the basics. They call themselves the Galactic Council, Alan explained to the room full of serious-faced officials. They say they govern over 300 species across our galaxy, and they've been watching Earth for some time. National Security Advisor Diane Murphy frowned. "Watching? Us? For how long?" "They don't say," Lisa replied, scrolling through the data. "But they want to send representatives here in 30 days to establish diplomatic relations with Earth." The news spread quickly. Within days, the whole world knew that aliens were real and were coming to Earth. Some people celebrated in the streets. Others stockpiled supplies and hid in bunkers. Religious leaders called emergency meetings to discuss what this meant for their faiths. Stock markets fluctuated wildly. The president appeared on television, calling for calm. "We have formed a special committee to prepare for this historic meeting. Ambassador Frank Collins will lead our diplomatic efforts." Ambassador Collins was a tall man with gray hair and a reputation for staying cool under pressure. He had negotiated peace deals in some of the world's worst conflict zones. But even he felt overwhelmed by this assignment. "We're dealing with something completely unknown," he told his team during their first meeting. "We need to proceed with both openness and caution." General Patricia Hayes disagreed. "With all due respect, Mr. Ambassador, we should be preparing our defenses. We know nothing about their intentions." "They're traveling across space to talk, not to fight," Collins replied. "That's what they say," Hayes countered. "But why would an advanced galactic civilization be interested in us unless they want something?" While the politicians argued, Alan and Lisa continued working on the message. They discovered hidden frequencies carrying vast amounts of data. "It's like they included an entire library," Lisa said, amazed as she sorted through the information. "There are details here about hundreds of other worlds and species." Alan focused on the data about other civilizations that had joined the Galactic Council. He noticed something strange. "Look at these timelines. Each species makes contact, accepts diplomatic relations within their suggested time frame, and then signs what they call protection treaties. But after that, their development seems to stall." Lisa pulled up more data. "You're right. And look at the resource export figures. After joining the Council, every planet begins shipping out massive amounts of materials. They worked through the night, piecing together the pattern. By morning, they had a disturbing theory. Alan called Ambassador Collins immediately. "We need to meet. It's urgent." Hours later, in a secure room beneath the White House, Alan and Lisa presented their findings to Collins, General Hayes, and a small group of advisors. "We believe the Galactic Council is not what it claims to be," Alan explained. "Based on the data they themselves provided, they appear to be running what amounts to a galaxy-wide resource extraction operation." Lisa displayed charts on a screen. "Every civilization that joins gets the same deal. They provide protection in exchange for resources. But the protection rates keep increasing while the planets are stripped of their valuable materials. It's colonization," General Hayes said quietly, "just dressed up as diplomacy." Ambassador Collins looked troubled. "If you're right, we need to be very careful about how we proceed." They brought their findings to the president that evening. The meeting lasted until dawn. When it ended, the president had made a decision that would change humanity's future. "We will greet these representatives with respect," the president said, "but we will not be rushed into any agreements, and we will certainly not be subjugated." Over the next 3 weeks, preparations were made quietly. General Hayes activated secret defense systems that had been developed over the past decade. Ambassador Collins prepared his team for a very different kind of diplomacy than what they had originally planned. Alan and his team worked around the clock, extracting every bit of useful information from the alien transmission. They found technical data that Earth scientists immediately began to analyze, looking for weaknesses in Council technology. They rely heavily on quantum entanglement for their communications, Alan told the Security Council. And we've been working on quantum disruption technology for years. We might actually have an advantage they don't expect. When the day of arrival came, people around the world looked up at the sky. The Galactic Council ship appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit, a massive structure that dwarfed the International Space Station. It gleamed in the sunlight, a marvel of engineering that made Earth's most advanced technology look primitive. Smaller vessels detached from the main ship and descended toward the United Nations building in New York, where world leaders had gathered. The landing was broadcast live to billions of viewers. 3 different alien species emerged from the crafts. The Zorlans were tall and insect-like, with compound eyes and clicking mandibles. The Valerians had scales and moved with a reptilian grace. The Amithi were strangest of all, semi-transparent beings that seemed to float rather than walk. Council Ambassador Creel, a Zorlan, stepped forward. "We come in peace and friendship to welcome Earth into the Galactic Council." Ambassador Collins stepped forward to meet them. "On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth," he said with a smile. Then he added the words that would shock the visitors. "We look forward to learning more about your proposal over the coming weeks before making our decision." Creel's antennae twitched. "Weeks? That is not the standard protocol. Most worlds are eager to join immediately. Humans like to take their time with important decisions," Collins replied pleasantly. "I'm sure you understand." Behind his diplomatic smile, Collins knew the real work was just beginning. Earth had 30 days to prepare for a confrontation no one had expected, the day humanity would have to say no to the stars. The huge alien ship hung in the sky like a second moon. People around the world watched it on their screens, some with hope, others with fear. In the halls of the United Nations, Ambassador Frank Collins walked with Council Ambassador Creel and the other alien representatives. "We have prepared comfortable quarters for your stay," Collins said to the aliens. "I hope they will be suitable." Creel clicked his mandibles, a sound that Collins was beginning to recognize as frustration. "We expected to begin treaty talks immediately. Our data shows that all civilizations at your development stage are eager to join the Galactic Council." Collins smiled politely. "Earth has many nations and cultures. We need time to build consensus. I'm sure beings as advanced as yourselves understand the value of patience." In a secure room beneath the Pentagon, General Patricia Hayes watched the exchange on a screen. "He's doing well," she said to the military officers gathered around her. "Keep them talking while we complete our preparations." A young analyst named Jack Martinez raised his hand. "General, I've been monitoring the Council ship's energy emissions. They're scanning our planet extensively, including our military bases." Hayes frowned. "What kind of scans?" "Deep, penetrating ones," Jack replied. "They can see through most of our shielding. They're mapping everything." "Why scan us if they just want to be friends?" one of the officers asked. Hayes didn't answer. She picked up a secure phone and dialed a number. "Mr. President, we need to speed up Operation Defiant Shield." At SETI headquarters, Dr. Alan White and Dr. Lisa Johnson continued to analyze the alien transmissions. They had set up a system to intercept communications between the Council ship and the delegation on Earth. "I've got something," Lisa said, looking up from her computer. "They're sending regular reports back to their ship. Listen to this translation." She played the recording. "The humans are unusually hesitant. This is not consistent with our predictive models. Primary resource surveys indicate rich deposits of rare elements and biological diversity. Recommend proceeding to secondary negotiation tactics if delay exceeds 72 hours. Alan looked troubled. "Secondary negotiation tactics? What does that mean?" "Nothing good, I bet," Lisa replied. "Keep digging through their data library. I'll try to intercept more communications. At the United Nations, a reception was held for the alien visitors. Human diplomats mixed nervously with the three alien species. The Zorlans stayed together, their insect-like bodies making humans uncomfortable. The reptilian Valerians seemed more willing to interact, accepting drinks and attempting human foods. The gaseous Amithi floated above the gathering, occasionally descending to communicate in soft, whistling tones. Dr. Elizabeth Moore, a linguist on Ambassador Collins's team, moved carefully through the crowd, listening to the aliens speak to each other in their native tongues. Her translator device picked up fragments of conversation, primitive but useful resources, unusual resistance. Consider showing the fleet. Elizabeth moved closer to Ambassador Collins and whispered in his ear. Sir, I believe they're discussing some kind of show of force. Collins nodded slightly. Keep listening. I need to make a call. While Collins stepped away, Valerian Commander Shez approached Elizabeth. Your language is fascinating, the reptilian alien said. So many words for war and conflict. Elizabeth smiled. We also have many words for peace and friendship. Yet your history is dominated by fighting among yourselves, Shez observed. The Council could help end that. Under our protection, warfare becomes unnecessary. At what cost? Elizabeth asked. Shez's vertical pupils narrowed. There is always a cost for progress, Dr. Moore. The question is whether you can afford not to pay it. In Washington, D.C., the president sat with military and scientific advisors in the Situation Room. Ambassador Collins joined via secure video link. They're getting impatient, Collins reported. And Dr. Moore overheard what sounds like threats to show us their fleet. The orbital platforms are almost ready, General Hayes said. We need another 48 hours. Dr. White spoke up. From another screen, Mr. President, we've found something important in their data. The Council has a strict protocol for new civilizations. If we don't agree to their terms within their time frame, they classify us as non-compliant and take more aggressive measures. What kind of measures? The President asked. Based on historical data, they start with small demonstrations of power, disabling communications satellites, creating weather disturbances. Then they escalate to destroying military installations. Finally, they target population centers until compliance is achieved. The room fell silent. The President looked at each face before speaking. We will not be bullied or threatened. General Hayes, how quickly can you activate the defensive grid? With emergency protocols, 36 hours. Do it, the President ordered. Ambassador Collins, keep them talking. Be polite but firm. We need time. Back at the UN, Collins met with Creel and the other council representatives. The atmosphere was tense. Your delay is unusual, Creel said. The benefits of council membership are clear. Protection, advanced technology, inclusion in galactic trade networks. We appreciate the offer, Collins said. But, as I explained, Earth requires time to consider all implications. We request a full week before formal talks begin. Creel's antennae stiffened. Delays are not customary. They could be interpreted as hostile intent. I assure you, we mean no disrespect, Collins replied. But we will not be rushed in a decision that affects our entire planet. The Amithi representative, a swirling cloud of vapor named Zuth, floated forward. Perhaps the humans fear loss of autonomy. Many species share this concern initially. And, is it justified? Collins asked directly. The aliens exchanged glances. Creel spoke carefully. All members of the council make certain contributions for the greater good. What kind of contributions? Collins pressed. Details are discussed during formal negotiations, Creel said, clearly unwilling to be specific. Later that evening, Jack Martinez called General Hayes with alarming news. General, the council ship is deploying smaller vessels. They appear to be preparing for landings at multiple sites around the globe. Where? Hayes demanded. Near major resource deposits, rare earth mineral sites, uranium mines, freshwater, reserves. Hayes immediately called the President. Sir, I think they're done waiting. We need to implement Protocol Phoenix now. The President agreed. Within hours, Carefully selected information began to leak through global news networks. Hints about Earth's hidden defensive capabilities and quantum disruption technology. The leaks were designed to create uncertainty about Earth's true military strength. At SETI, Alan and Lisa made another breakthrough. "We've identified a vulnerability in their communication systems," Alan told the emergency committee. "Their quantum network has a frequency pattern we can disrupt with technology we already have." "Can we block their communications?" General Hayes asked. "Better than that," Lisa replied. "We can feed false data into their systems, make them see what we want them to see." As dawn broke over New York, the council representatives requested an urgent meeting. Collins met them in the UN Security Council chamber. "We have detected unusual activity around your planet," Creel stated. "Military preparations are unnecessary and could lead to misunderstandings." "Just as your scan of our military installations could be misunderstood," Collins countered. "Or your preparation of landing craft near our resource deposits." Creel's compound eyes reflected the light in faceted patterns. "You are monitoring our communications, just as you are monitoring ours," Collins said evenly. "Ambassador Creel, let me be clear. Earth welcomes peaceful dialogue, but we will protect our sovereignty. We still request a full week before formal negotiations begin." The alien delegation withdrew to consult. Outside the chamber, Elizabeth Moore whispered to Collins, "They seem genuinely surprised by our resistance." Collins nodded. "No one likes to discover their playbook isn't working. Let's hope we have enough time." Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a room carved from solid stone, Earth's leaders gathered around a large table. Maps and data screens covered the walls. The air was tense as they finalized their strategy. "We have 4 days left before our requested negotiation period ends," Ambassador Collins said, looking at the tired faces around him. "The council is growing more impatient by the hour." Dr. Elizabeth Moore stood and touched a screen on the wall. "I've completed my analysis of all the data we've gathered about previous council contacts. Every civilization that joined within their proposed time frame followed the same pattern." The screen showed planet after planet, with graphs tracking resource exports and development indices. Within 5 years of joining, each world became what amounts to a mining colony. They call it partnership, but it's exploitation. General Hayes nodded grimly. "The pattern is clear. They offer protection, take resources, and leave just enough technology to make the extraction more efficient." "So what's our play?" the president asked. Collins leaned forward. "I call it diplomatic resistance. We remain unfailingly polite, while never actually agreeing to their terms. We ask questions they don't want to answer. We request clarifications that reveal the true nature of their partnership." "And if they lose patience completely?" General Hayes asked. "That's where your part comes in, General," the president said. "Report on our defensive preparations." Hayes touched a control, and the wall screens changed to show a network of satellites and hidden installations. "Operation Defiant Shield is now active. We've positioned our new quantum disruption emitters in orbit and at key locations worldwide. If they try to use force, we can disable their communications and weapons systems." "Will it be enough?" someone asked. "It has to be," Hayes replied. "We're dealing with technology centuries ahead of ours, but they don't expect us to have any defense at all. Surprise is our advantage." At the United Nations, the Galactic Council delegation was growing visibly frustrated. Valerian Commander Shez paced the room, scales bristling. "This delay is unprecedented," Shez hissed to Creel. "We should speak directly to their supreme leader." Creel's antennae twitched. "Humans have no single authority. Their president leads only one nation, albeit a powerful one. They insist on collective decision-making." The Amithi representative, Zuth, drifted between them. "Perhaps we have misjudged their psychological profile. Most species fear our power and rush to accept our protection. These humans show unusual independence. Independence bordering on defiance," Shez said. "The fleet commander is requesting permission to move more ships into the system as a show of strength." Creel considered this. "Approved. Begin positioning landing craft near their major cities as well. Let them see what they face if they continue to resist. In a monitoring station beneath the Pentagon, Jack Martinez noticed the new activity immediately. He called General Hayes on a secure line. "General, the Council is bringing in reinforcements. 3 more large ships just appeared at the edge of our solar system, and they're positioning smaller craft in our atmosphere, hovering above New York, Beijing, Moscow, and other major cities. They're trying to intimidate us," Hayes replied. "Hold steady. How are our defensive systems looking?" "All quantum disruptors are online and calibrated. We're ready." Hayes ended the call and turned to the president, who had just entered the room. "Sir, they're making their show of force." The president nodded. "As expected. Implement Protocol Phoenix Phase 2. Within hours, news outlets around the world began reporting on leaked information about Earth's secret space program. Stories appeared about hidden technologies and defensive capabilities that had been developed in preparation for possible alien contact. Most were exaggerations, but some contained just enough truth to create uncertainty. At SETI headquarters, Dr. Alan White and Dr. Lisa Johnson continued their analysis of the Council's technology. "Their quantum communication system is impressive," Alan said, looking at the data, "but it has a weakness. They rely entirely on entangled particles operating at a specific frequency range. Our disruptors target exactly that range." "Do you think they know we've figured this out?" Lisa asked. "I don't think so. Their behavior suggests they still believe. We're completely outmatched." Lisa turned to another screen. "I've been mapping their fleet positions. They're creating a standard containment pattern, the same one they've used on other worlds before occupation." In New York, Ambassador Collins met with his team, including a junior diplomat named Samantha Kelly. She had been assigned to handle document processing, a seemingly minor role that had unexpectedly provided a major breakthrough. "I was organizing the materials they gave us," Samantha explained, "when I found this buried in the technical appendices." She handed Collins a tablet. "It's already been translated into English, but hidden in their data package." Collins read the document, his expression darkening. "These are our admission terms, already drafted. They've allocated Earth's resources before we've even agreed to join." He scrolled through the document. "Mining rights to our mineral deposits, harvesting rights to our oceans, even population management protocols. They never intended to negotiate," Elizabeth Moore said quietly. "They expected us to simply sign whatever they put in front of us." Collins handed the tablet back to Samantha. "Make copies of this for our final meeting. It's time to show them we know exactly what they're doing." Later that day, Collins met again with the Council representatives. The atmosphere was cold. "We have detected unusual activity in your orbital space," Creel said without preamble. "Devices of unknown purpose have been deployed." "Just as you have. Deployed additional ships to our solar system," Collins replied calmly, "and positioning craft above our cities." "A standard protective formation," Shez cut in, "for your safety during transition to Council membership." Collins smiled thinly. "We have not agreed to join your Council, Commander Shez." "The benefits are obvious," Creel insisted. "Your world is isolated, vulnerable. The galaxy contains many dangers." "Including the Council itself?" Collins asked. The aliens went silent. Creel's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "Explain your meaning, Ambassador." "We've been studying the information you provided about other worlds that joined your Council. We've analyzed the resource extraction patterns. We've intercepted your communications about our primitive but useful resources. And most interestingly," Collins placed Samantha's tablet on the table, "we found the terms you already drafted for our partnership." Zuth's gaseous form rippled. "Standard preparatory documentation, merely a starting point for discussion. A starting point that gives you control of our planet's resources and population," Collins countered. "That's not partnership, it's conquest by paperwork." Creel rose, to his full height, towering over Collins. "You forget your position, human. Look to your skies. Our ships can reduce your cities to ash." "Can they?" Collins asked, his voice still calm. Before you make threats, Ambassador Creel, you might want to check with your fleet. In orbit, the Council ships suddenly found their systems malfunctioning. Communications failed. Weapons targeting. Systems went offline. The quantum disruption network had activated, creating a protective shield around Earth. Back in the meeting room, Creel received an urgent message from the fleet commander. His compound eyes widened as he read it. "What have you done?" he demanded. "Protected our world," Collins replied simply. As any prudent species would do. The Council representatives exchanged alarmed glances. For the first time since their arrival, they seemed uncertain. "Perhaps," Collins continued, "we should reschedule our formal talks. When you're ready to discuss real partnership, not exploitation, we will be happy to listen." As the aliens left in stunned silence, Samantha leaned toward Elizabeth. "Did we just win?" Elizabeth watched the departing council members with careful eyes. "This isn't over yet, but we've changed the game." The Grand Hall of the United Nations had never felt so important. Flags of all nations lined the walls. The air smelled of polish and perfume. World leaders sat in neat rows, backs straight, faces serious. Today was the day Earth would give its formal answer to the Galactic Council. The alien delegation entered, still looking confident despite recent events. Zorlan Ambassador Creel led them, followed by Valerian Commander Shez and the floating form of Amithi Representative Zuth. They took their places at the special table prepared for them. "The Council appreciates your thorough consideration of our offer," Creel began, his voice translated through speakers around the room. "We are confident that today Earth will join the hundreds of worlds that enjoy our protection and guidance." Ambassador Frank Collins stood at the human delegation's table. He smiled politely at Creel. "Ambassador, on behalf of the nations of Earth, I thank you for your patience. We have indeed given your proposal our most careful consideration." The room was completely silent. Even the usual whispers and shuffling had stopped. Every human in the room knew what was coming. "After reviewing all information and consulting with the governments of Earth, I am authorized to formally respond to your offer of membership in the Galactic Council," Collins said, his voice clear and strong. "Earth respectfully declines." For a moment, nothing happened. The alien representatives seemed frozen in place. Then Creel's antennae began to twitch violently. Shez's scales bristled. Zuth's gaseous form swirled faster. "Declines?" Creel finally managed to say. "No species has ever declined council membership." "Then we are honored to be the first," Collins replied. Creel's compound eyes seemed to flash with anger. "Perhaps you misunderstand the nature of our offer. Council protection is essential for developing worlds. The galaxy contains many dangers. We are aware of the dangers," Collins said, "including those that hide behind offers of friendship." The room erupted in murmurs. Creel stood up, his tall, insect-like form towering over the table. "This is highly irregular. Consultation with the full council will be required. Before you consult with them," Collins said, "you might want to see why we've made this decision." He nodded to Dr. Elizabeth Moore, who pressed a button on her tablet. The large screens around the hall lit up with data, charts, and images. "This is Planet Neri," Elizabeth explained, pointing to the first image. Before council membership, it was self-sufficient with developing technology. 5 years after joining, 90% of its mineral resources had been exported. Its people now live in poverty. She swiped to the next image. Planet Vox, similar story. And here's Zentar, and Krell Prime. The pattern is consistent across all worlds that have joined your council. Shez hissed angrily. "These are internal council matters. You have accessed restricted information." "Information you provided yourselves," Dr. Alan White said, stepping forward. "Hidden in the data packages you sent us. Did you think we wouldn't find it or wouldn't understand it?" Creel's mandibles clicked rapidly. "This meeting is over. We will return to our ship and report this unusual response to the council leadership." "Actually," General Hayes said, standing up from her seat, "you may have trouble contacting your leadership." She held up her own tablet, showing the status of the council ships. Your quantum communications are currently non-functional. A regrettable technical issue. Zuth floated higher, voice whistling with agitation. You are interfering with Council technology? This is unprecedented. As is your attempt to subjugate our world through false diplomacy, Collins countered. The alien delegation huddled together, speaking urgently in their own languages. The human leaders waited patiently. Finally, Creel turned back to address them. This resistance is futile. Your primitive defenses cannot hold. Our fleet will simply... Your fleet is currently unable to target anything on our planet, General Hayes interrupted. Our quantum disruption field affects your weapon systems as well as communications. For the first time, real uncertainty showed in Creel's posture. How is this possible? Your species does not have this level of technology. Dr. White smiled, slightly. Actually, we've been working on quantum field manipulation for decades. Your arrival simply accelerated our progress. We also noticed your observation probes in our solar system 3 years ago, Jack Martinez added. We've been studying your technology ever since. Creel turned to Collins, voice harsh. You planned this defiance from the beginning? No, Collins said honestly. We were genuinely open to peaceful relations. It was only when we discovered your true intentions that we prepared to defend ourselves. Creel, Shez, and Zuth conferred again, more urgently this time. The human delegates waited, tense but determined. When the aliens turned back, their demeanor had changed subtly. Perhaps, Creel said carefully, there has been a misunderstanding. The standard council integration process may not be appropriate for Earth. We could discuss a more customized arrangement. Collins shook his head. That won't be necessary. We are not interested in any arrangement that gives the council authority over our world or its resources. You cannot simply refuse, Shez burst out. No world exists outside council influence. Until now, Collins said firmly. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Humans and aliens stared at each other across a divide that seemed impossible to bridge. Then Samantha Kelly, the junior diplomat who had discovered the pre-written terms, stepped forward. Perhaps, she suggested, voice calm despite her nervousness, we could consider a different kind of relationship entirely. All eyes turned to Collins nodded for her to continue. Not membership, but an alliance between equals, Samantha explained. Earth remains independent. We share knowledge and conduct fair trade, but no resource extraction beyond what we freely agree to. No protection arrangements. Just genuine cooperation. Zuth drifted closer to Samantha. The Council does not form such relationships. It is not our way. Then perhaps your way needs to evolve, she replied simply. The alien delegation seemed at a loss. Finally, Creel spoke. We have no authority to negotiate such unusual terms. We must consult the full council. We understand, Collins said. We will restore your communications capability for that purpose only. In the meantime, your delegation is welcome to remain as our guests. After the aliens left to make their report, the human leaders gathered in a smaller room. The president looked at each face in turn. We've taken an enormous risk today, the president said. We've changed the course of our world's history. Do you think they'll respect our decision? Elizabeth asked. General Hayes shook her head. Not easily. They've never faced this situation before. What happens if they decide to attack anyway? Someone asked. Our defenses will hold for a while, Hayes answered, but not forever against their full fleet. Alan White looked thoughtful. They might not attack immediately. We've surprised them. They'll need time to assess and adapt. And during that time, Collins asked, we prepare, the president said firmly. We develop our defenses further and we reach out. Reach out? Hayes frowned. To whom? To other worlds, Samantha suggested. The ones they've already subjugated. We can't be the only ones who resent the Council's methods. Collins nodded slowly. If we can create alliances with other worlds, that changes everything. A rebellion. Against the Galactic Council? Elizabeth asked, eyes wide. Not a rebellion. Collins corrected. An alternative, a true galactic community based on mutual respect, not exploitation. The president stood. First, we need to survive the Council's response to our rejection. General Hayes, maximize our defensive capabilities. Dr. White, keep analyzing their technology for weaknesses. Ambassador Collins, prepare for another round of negotiations. They'll try a different approach next. As they filed out of the room, Samantha found herself walking beside Collins. Do you think they'll ever accept us as equals? She asked quietly. Collins looked at her thoughtfully. They don't want to. But sometimes the universe doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you need. And what's that? A challenge, Collins said. Something to make you grow beyond what you thought possible. Today we've become that challenge for the Galactic Council. News spread quickly across the galaxy. Within days, every council world had heard about Earth, the small blue planet that had done the impossible, the world that said no. At first, the council tried to keep it quiet. They controlled most communication, networks between worlds. But the story leaked through unofficial channels. Traders whispered it in spaceports. Workers murmured about it in mines. Hope began to stir on planets that had long ago given up resistance. 3 weeks after Earth's rejection, the main council fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system. 50 massive ships, each larger than the first vessel that had appeared above Earth. They formed a blockade, cutting Earth off from the rest of space. Ambassador Collins watched the fleet's arrival on a monitor in the Pentagon's command center. Quite a show of force, he said quietly. General Hayes nodded. Our disruption field is at maximum capacity, but it won't stop that many ships if they decide to attack. They won't attack immediately, Dr. Alan White said, studying the data on the fleet's positions. Look at how they're positioned. This is intimidation, not preparation for assault. The president entered the room, looking tired but determined. What's their next move? They'll try to negotiate again, Collins predicted, from a position of greater strength. Sure enough, a message soon arrived from the Council's Supreme Commander, requesting a meeting. This time, they insisted it be held on their flagship. It's a trap, General Hayes said immediately. They want to get our leaders off planet where our defenses can't protect them. Agreed, the president said. We'll suggest a neutral location instead, the International Space Station. They can dock with it, but it's still within range of our ground-based systems. The Council grudgingly accepted. 2 days later, a small Council vessel docked with the ISS. A new delegation emerged, led by a High Counselor named Vril, a being from a species not seen in the first delegation. Vril was tall and pale, with 6 arms and eyes that seemed to glow slightly. Ambassador Collins, Dr. Elizabeth Moore, and Samantha Kelly represented Earth, along with a small security team. They met in the station's largest module, modified for the occasion. Earth's defiance has created quite a disturbance, Vril began without preamble. Many worlds are watching what happens next. We're not interested in creating disturbances, Collins replied. We simply wish to determine our own fate. Vril's glowing eyes narrowed. The Council maintains order across the galaxy. Individual worlds cannot simply choose to opt out of the established system. Why not? Samantha asked directly. If the system doesn't serve their interests? Vril looked at her with surprise, clearly not expecting a junior diplomat to speak. Young human, you don't understand galactic politics. Resources must be managed efficiently. Protection must be coordinated. The Council exists for the greater good. The greater good of whom? Elizabeth asked. Our analysis shows 90% of benefits flow to the founding Council worlds, while newer members provide resources and receive little in return. Vril seemed uncomfortable with this direct challenge. Your species is remarkably forthright. We value honesty, Collins said simply. Then honestly, you have 2 options, Vril said, voice hardening. Join the Council under standard terms or face isolation. Our fleet will remain. No ships will reach your world. You will be alone in a dangerous galaxy. Collins looked at Vril calmly. There is a third option. You recognize Earth's independence and we establish relations based on mutual respect and fair exchange." Vril laughed, a strange sound like chimes in wind. "You have courage, but your position is untenable. You will eventually." A junior council aide rushed into the room and whispered urgently to Vril. The High Counselor's expression changed from amusement to alarm. "Excuse me," Vril said abruptly, and the council delegation withdrew to confer privately. When they returned, Vril seemed shaken. "It seems we have received communications from several council member worlds. They are expressing interest in renegotiating their own terms of membership." Collins kept his expression neutral, though inside he felt a surge of hope. "Perhaps they find Earth's position reasonable." "This is unprecedented," Vril muttered almost to himself. "The Council has maintained order for 3,000 years. Perhaps it's time for a new kind of order," Collins suggested. Back on Earth, Dr. Alan White and Jack Martinez had made another breakthrough. They had established contact with resistance groups on several Council worlds using modified quantum communication techniques that bypassed Council monitoring. "It's working better than we hoped," Jack told the President excitedly. 12 worlds have already reached out. They've been watching what's happening here, and it's giving them courage. "Can we help them?" the President asked. Alan nodded. "We're sharing our quantum disruption technology. It's surprisingly easy to adapt to their systems. Several worlds are already implementing it. And the Council ships in their systems won't be able to stop them," Jack added. The President looked thoughtful. "We're starting something big here, a fundamental shift in the galactic balance of power. The question is whether the Council will adapt or fight to maintain control," Alan said. On the space station, negotiations continued for 2 more days. Finally, High Counselor Vril made an unexpected announcement. "The Council leadership has reconsidered Earth's situation. Your world presents unique circumstances that may justify a special arrangement." "We're listening," Collins said carefully. "The Council will recognize Earth's autonomy. No resource extraction without explicit agreement. Fair trade terms." Vril seemed to struggle with each concession. "In exchange, Earth will maintain peaceful relations with Council worlds and share certain technologies." "Which technologies?" Elizabeth asked suspiciously. "Your quantum field innovations are of particular interest," Vril admitted. Collins, Elizabeth, and Samantha exchanged glances. They had expected this. "We'll share our defensive applications," Collins offered, "but not offensive capabilities. And we want access to Council star charts and xenobiology databases in return." Vril hesitated, then nodded. "Acceptable, with limitations on certain sensitive regions. There is one more condition. Earth must cease encouraging dissent on other Council worlds." Collins smiled slightly. "We haven't encouraged anything, we've simply demonstrated an alternative. But we can agree not to interfere directly in Council internal politics." The agreement was signed the next day. Not a treaty of submission, but a compact between equals. As the Council delegation prepared to leave, Vril approached Collins privately. "You've changed everything," the High Counselor said, voice low. "The Council has never faced this kind of challenge." "Change can be healthy," Collins replied. Vril's glowing eyes studied him. "Perhaps, or perhaps you've started something that will bring chaos to 1,000 worlds." "Not chaos," Collins corrected. "Freedom." When the Earth delegation returned home, they found a hero's welcome. But Ambassador Collins knew their work was just beginning. Within months, Earth established its own diplomatic corps specifically for interstellar relations. Collins was appointed to lead it. Dr. Moore and Jack Martinez headed a new team dedicated to building an independent communication network outside Council control. They worked with representatives from other worlds who secretly visited Earth to learn from humanity's example. 1 year after Earth's rejection of Council membership, Samantha Kelly stood in a new conference room built specifically for extraterrestrial visitors. Around the table sat representatives from 12 formerly subjugated species. Some had openly broken with the Council. Others maintained their membership, but were quietly asserting greater independence. "This is historic," Samantha said, looking at the diverse beings before her. The first meeting of what I hope will become a true galactic alliance based on equality and mutual benefit. A delegate from Neri, the world whose exploitation Elizabeth had first highlighted, spoke up. We have Earth to thank for showing us what was possible. Samantha smiled. We simply stood up for ourselves. You're all doing the same now. And the council? Another delegate asked. They're adapting, slowly, Samantha replied. They've already reformed some of their most exploitative practices. They know they can't go back to the old ways. As the meeting began in earnest, Samantha looked out the window at the blue sky. Somewhere up there, new ships were arriving. Not to threaten or demand, but to connect and collaborate. A new kind of galactic community was taking its first steps, all because humanity had done something simple, but profound. They had simply said no.